So here we go. First reactions. Doctor Strange just came out of it. There's tons of spoilers coming your way. If you do not want spoilers, then this is not a video for you. Tons of spoilers across the internet and a lot of fake spoilers and wrong spoilers as well. If you don't want to be subject to any spoilers, please don't stick around with me. If I see some folks pop in, then I'll try to repeat the fact that I'm going to do spoilers, heavy spoilers. So let me first say what I liked about the film. One, you can feel some of the Sam Raimi in a lot of scenes. There are scenes that are very dark, Evil Dead stuff. There's a shot where Wanda, Scarlet Witch, because this is, let me start that the framework of the film is built that it's a sequel more to WandaVision driving the plot than Doctor Strange 2, right? So Doctor Strange 2 really sets up Mordo as a villain in conflict, which is briefly talked about in the film. Rather than that, we get like what happens in the fallout of WandaVision and what was teased in the trailer, right? She's I control a little town, or I do this, so therefore I'm a villain, but you do it and you're a hero. And that really is the crux and the backdrop of the film. It's definitely a more WandaVision film than Doctor Strange film in a lot of ways because of that. But I want to say that I didn't hate that part. They made her. They kind of like did with her what I kind of hoped that they would do with her. Really, to be honest, there was a lot of villain stuff, dark, edgy stuff with her. She's definitely mental. They kind of kept it in that range. That was pretty good. Anyway, so she's trying to get into the sanctuary, and you have basically all of the sorcerers there protecting it. And there's a spot where she figures out a way to use the mirror. She's trapped in the mirror universe, and she kind of figures a way to reverse it so she can go through a reflection. And she sort of like does the ring, if in the movie The Ring, where it kind of like comes out of the TV, that kind of thing. The creepy, disjointed movement. That was really good. There's a couple spots, like there's a spot where Strange communicates with a zombie version of himself to cross into that dimension. Again, very Raimi. So these elements of Raimi are in it. And you can see there is a mention of Scott Derrickson in one of the credits. His original idea was more of a horror film with Nightmare as the villain. So some of those dark elements are there. But you can tell the story has been rewritten to be a WandaVision sequel, right? So Wanda leaves and there's no consequence. She brainwashes and controls all of these people in this little town. This is one of my biggest complaints was the finale of WandaVision. I have to say, I feel a little better about WandaVision because I felt like Marvel and Disney didn't want to do anything with that storyline. They just kind of left it. Like she suddenly got away with doing those things. And this film kind of furthers that story. And at least this is what happens. And she is obsessed with continuing to find a way, reading this Darkhold. So the Darkhold is this book that we see in some of the credit scenes after the films, and she's tapping into this to really become, and when we say Scarlet Witch, she's not a heroic Scarlet Witch that we learned from the comic book. She is definitely a monster. She's definitely evil. She's obsessed with finding her kids, getting her kids, the fake Tommy and Billy. So she created them in our universe, but she's convinced because she dreamed. So the dream world is treated as our mystical communication in this infinite multiverse of possibilities. Because she dreams about it, then that's her way of thinking that, yeah, it's real out there. And I just got to find a way to get to them. If I get to them, then I can have my kids back. And there are a couple speeches where I have to be honest, Strange is challenging her pretty well on like, well, doesn't that kind of make you the villain? What are you going to do with the other Wanda? And she's like, I'll do what I got to do. Why would you? So, I mean, the obvious thing is it's such a weird manufactured reason to do all of this that you don't totally feel that connected or empathetic with her, because in the back of your mind you're like, well, Strange just told everybody how fake it all is. Like, why are we, why is it okay that you do this? Like, you really are the villain here, right? Lady, don't you see that? So um I have to be honest, again, like I said, I liked a lot of that. As it kind of lifts some of the elements, because I really didn't like how all of that played out with WandaVision. It was just this really um, pathetic ending with Agatha thing. Like, and WandaVision ended with Agatha instigating Wanda down this avenue, like throwing some gas on the fire, dealing with her grief and her mourning and all of that. I didn't care enough. Like, it just didn't. Yeah, it's like, okay, this movie at least went further. Like, you started to feel, some people did, some people did like WandaVision, so this would be a film that you might actually enjoy a lot more than I even did, because you're a lot more invested in her agony and her pain and her desire to fight a way to reunite with these kids. Because in her mind, she's transitioned from she magically created them to they exist somewhere in this infinite universe, infinite multiverse. So the fact that they kept her a villain and extended her villain story, as insane as that is, she at least does come across as being insane. And there are different levels in the film where it kind of peaks and valleys with that. And Sam Raimi's influence, I think, gets lost in the noise of sort of like the rest of the story, like that part of it. And, like I said, Scott Derrickson set out to make more of a horror film with Nightmare as a villain. I think them twisting all of this and trying to wedge all this together in these reshoots and whatever is why it's kind of a muddled mess. Because its biggest problem is its voice. It has those dark elements, and those are sort of the positives. And the negative is the journey of the film, the bright colors, and I don't even know. I don't know. It's like, it's just the tone. The tone is like muddled up and doesn't make a lot of sense sometimes. America Chavez, it starts off in the film with America Chavez. So America Chavez ends with Defender Strange, and they're in a universe battling this creature that's trying to capture her. And he gets sort of mortally wounded as she punches a hole and they end up in our universe. That's how the film starts. I did not hate America. First off, any of you have heard me rant and rave in any multiple videos that I've done. I cannot stand America Chavez. I've tried to read the comic books. I've tried to give the character a chance. I didn't want to believe this character would be this bad. I didn't hate America Chavez as much as I thought I would, but I don't like America Chavez. Like, the actress is not very good, but she's not as awful. Some of the jokes don't work at all. Like, she starts out at being kind of snarky. She's picking at Strange. There's jokes about, having free food, and everywhere else there's free food. It was totally lame. She speaks Spanish. Wong knows Spanish. He doesn't. They mock him. Like, there's little things that are supposed to be funny. But what's good about the story is she actually has, her character changes. So in the beginning, oh, and by the way, the biggest thing is this version of America Chavez, unlike the comic book, is not an arrogant, nasty, she's worse than a Karen. I don't even know what she is. She's a purple-haired weirdo, basically disguised as this, Puerto Rican lesbian alien thing. She is not that off-putting in this film. She's actually comes across as being a little bit of an innocent teenager who has this power. She doesn't really know what she's doing. She doesn't quite know how it works. She definitely doesn't know how it works. They grow her over the course of the film, and it's not a lot, but she changes. Like, so she she has sort of some bonding with Strange and treats it's almost like a father-daughter relationship. She does appear to try to care for him because he's done all this to save her. You know, the whole point of the film is this thing is after her, which turns out to be Wanda, but they don't know that early on. He easily could be trying to manipulate her, steal power for himself. There's a scene late in the movie where you think he might actually still do that. People coming in and out, just again, spoiler warning, spoiler warning, spoiler warnings. Again, didn't hate it as much as I thought I would, but she's still an irritating character. Like it's still a very hollow character. There's really not a lot there to work with. But I will say she has a bit of a story arc. She changes. So she becomes, I think she's made more aware that there's a lot more complexity with this. So Troy says, what I want to know if you're doing spoilers. I am doing spoilers. Spoiler. Is Wanda a villain? Yeah, I've already said it. She is the villain. It is the best part of the film is that this is a sequel to WandaVision more than it is a Doctor Strange sequel. But he at least is key in the film. He says because she was in her own film. Sorry, I was already answered that. Okay, yeah, no, it's fine. Yeah, so Wanda being crazy and Wanda's craziness is the best. It makes me feel better about WandaVision because I hated how WandaVision ended because I felt as though she got away with it. The film at least deals with the fact that it's not that she got away with it. She's going to continue her darkness and her grief now because she has that evil book, and the book is leading her further down her insanity. And Strange pretty much tells the audience, like it is a lot of exposition in that regard. Hey, Joker. But I think that was a positive. I think I didn't hate America Chavez as much as I thought I would. She at least changes over the course of the film. Again, I'm not going to say I love the character or anything like that. Oh, it pops over from Midnight's Edge spoiler. Well, I'm doing spoilers too. Spoiler review. I haven't got to any of the bad stuff yet. Just trying to talk about some of the positives. I was trying to think of what else. So, and I would be a hypocrite. So the problem that I have is I like comic books too much. I like Marvel films too much. So my expectations of how good they can be, I think, can make me biased that I want them to be better than, what I would say if this was like a no-name movie. So for instance, I actually enjoyed Free Guy. This film is not the plot of a Free Guy is very juvenile, right? It's very primitive, and there's not a lot of complexity in Free Guy. The complexity and the stuff in this is basically it's very similar. Like it's a very simplistic stuff. So the good stuff with Sam Raimi, the fact that she stays a villain, and the fact that America Chavez is not that insane, arrogant, nasty witch of a character in the comic book are kind of the positives. And the fact that there's not this crazy, cringy, woke over feeling over the whole thing. It's just not like that. So those are the kind of the positives, basically. I see a lot of your comments. Chris Gore had comments about being a mess. I don't feel as harsh about it as Chris Gore then, because I didn't want to read into I didn't want my opinions. I knew enough of some of the spoilers, but I'm glad that I knew more because a lot of those spoilers are fake. So I didn't want to be biased, so I haven't actually seen the Chris Gore. I think he was on with Neurotic, and I kind of tuned out because they said they were going to do that. So I don't know what Chris Gore said specifically, but if he said it's a mess, it's coherent. You can follow the film and you can be entertained by the film. This film will play with normies better than I thought it would. And Joker says that's what I've been saying about the current Marvel. Yeah. So that's kind of the gist of the positives. The film is kind of a mess in the sense that there's a whole lot of crap going on. So the premise of the film is that, they're after America Chavez. You don't know why in the beginning. It turns out that it's Wanda. I will say it's the typical Hollywood cliche of, exposition. It's like, oh, you didn't tell me that, did you? It was like, it was cheap. And again, this is the guy that wrote Loki. So it's not like I'm expecting this guy to actually write a decent script. He did not. So it was weak to get the story sort of started. So she's kind of a MacGuffin. and then trying to find the Darkhold book or the, I forget the name of this book, but there's a mirror positive book. So if you imagine the Darkhold book is the Hell book, there's a positive book out there somewhere. Those are like your muffins, the MacGuffins, these chases into the thing. Anywho, so that's where the positive stuff is. The negative stuff is first and foremost that the special effects are very, very spotty. The visual, they're going to blame the pandemic on the visual effects and how cheap and bad some of the visual effects are, because some of them are just brutal. The second part is, I don't know what's going on with Doctor Strange's hair. It looks like a freaking detachable piece. Like, it's so insane. And there's a shot in a flashback. So they step on this memory thing when they go to this other universe, and he has a flashback to this dinner with Christine, and she gives him the watch. The watch has been played out in the first movie, whatever. The watch comes up a lot. And you see Benedict Cumberbatch without all the Doctor Strange makeup and stuff. Like, he doesn't have the goatee and mustache, and he doesn't have the crazy black hair, the way it swoops and stuff. And you're like, dude, that's this the look that he has in that scene versus hey, awesome one. It's insane. You feel like he's wearing a helmet. It's so bad. So that part's a big distraction. All right. So like I said, America Chavez is not nearly as cringe and bad. She's not very good as an actress, but it's not as horrible as I thought it would be, because she's not ever overpowering, and she doesn't distract from the Wanda versus Strange. But oh, by the way, massive spoilers. If you don't want spoilers, it's too late. Someone's okay. Joker says, yeah, LMAO. Someone said it looked like he had a Lego hair. Yeah, it does. It looks like you could pop his head. It's so bad, especially in the first few scenes, because later when you have a lot more color in the background, it kind of blends in a little bit better. You don't get quite as distracted, and you're caught up in the action of the film. But when they're just standing around talking, it is awful. But some of the visual effects are terrible. So the general gist of the story, they move along, trying to figure out the first step is to figure out who is after America Chavez. It turns out to be Wanda, with sort of a cheesy thing. And you do have a conversation where he has to spoon feed the normies. So for us, I think it's a little tedious, but it's not as terrible as I thought it would be, in the fact that she is insane, and she's drifting further and further into insane. The Darkhold takes its toll, that kind of thing. She has this black tips now on her fingers and stuff. So like I said, I enjoy the fact that this made WandaVision seem better, because it's not like she got off the hook. That was my pet peeve with WandaVision. It's like she got off the hook by being a monster. No, she is a monster in this. They just went deeper with it. They journey through the multiverse. They have this really crazy scene again where you're bouncing through things, and it's fine. They end up in a place, and they're bouncing around trying to find the other Doctor Strange, and this is what they're going to try to do, and they end up running into the Illuminati. Now, this is where all those cameo spoilers and stuff kind of come into play, and this stuff was absolutely terrible. I hated I hated to even bother doing this. It made no sense why to do this. They could have easily... This is all, I presume, manufactured as Spider-Man No Way Home stuff, because there was no reason for him to meet Illuminati, because there's just, first of all, I don't think any of the characters look good. I don't know exactly what they did to Haley Atwell, because they have her as Captain Carter, which I totally cringed out on. I pretty much was told that she was in it, and I hated it in What If. I can't stand it. It's like her head on an actual guy's body. That wasn't as much of a problem as what I'll get to. I hated her. They had Black Bolt from Inhumans. I mean, it's a lot more comic book accurate in his face, his mask, a helmet, whatever he's wearing, but it does not look right. It just looks like it doesn't look right. They do a lot of work with Patrick Stewart as Professor X. It just looks like old man Picard walking around. I just couldn't stand it. And then, of course, the John Krasinski thing. It is a lot like Taskmaster Joker. Yeah, it's bad. So cameo without story. Well, it is with this Illuminati thing, because you don't need it. It didn't. So because he's a Strange, they're Strange, had wanted the power of the Darkhold. The Darkhold basically corrupts everyone, and it kind of creates these multiverse problems. I'm just going to give you the layman's terms of all. They use the term incursion in this film. Anyway, long story short, when Wanda figures all this out, she shows up, they confront her, and she just basically just starts executing them. And I will admit, Sam Raimi's influence is there a little, because at least some of the deaths are brutal. But the problem is the male characters last like 2 seconds. I mean, I know it's silly to bring this into it, but this is where it does feel, if you read into the wokeness, this is where it gets, right? Black Bolt last 2 seconds. He can't open his mouth in time or whatever. They bring in the Mr. Fantastic, who doesn't really stretch, because Krasinski's character just is like, it's so bland and generic. The costume looked terrible. And she has this really bizarre quick death dispatching him. The men get dispatched. The women last longer. On all of that, I will say the Monica Rambeau Captain Marvel was at least a lot more of what I would have always wanted. Like, this is actually more like when Captain Marvel was part of the Avengers and she was good. It was when it was Monica Rambeau. I would have liked to see that. And she lasts a little bit longer against Wanda before she dies. So it was just lame, and it was added for cameo purposes. And then you have this Strange instigates Mordo, because Mordo's in charge in that multiverse, and they end up in a battle and it'll end badly. It's just I didn't care. Like, again, this is the bad part of all of it. Like, you end up with this segment. It's like, what? But yeah, is it Maria Rambeau? I thought it was Monica Rambeau. Maria's the mom, right? Anyway, I thought Monica Rambeau is Photon, but they had her as the Captain Marvel. Maybe I got that reversed and it is Maria. I don't know. I'm sorry, I don't know. She was okay. You know what? Now you say that, I think she does look like that. Anyway, she was of the Illuminati. She was the one that I liked the most, as far as the look of the character, the power, the whatever was fine. Anyway, so long story short, Strange is trying to protect America Chavez. They're trying to figure out how to get a hold of the good book to undo what Wanda's done. She's changed, and then Wanda is like increasingly more powerful because she's figuring out how to get into the multiverse and chase them down. So it's, again, cat and mouse type stuff. Special effects sometimes work, sometimes don't. But once you end up down that road, they introduce the Christina from that universe, and they do go. That's when they introduce the numbers. Like, so this is the 8. I think it's 838 universe, and they reference that our universe is considered 616. So this is their Christina, and Christina becomes the other sidekick. So this is where it can feel as woke as you want it to feel. It doesn't ever. I think the train never leaves the track. But basically, Strange is kind of going around with all these women. He's got America Chavez. He's got Christina. He's battling Wanda. Kinda. I don't think he's ever totally put in the back seat or powerless or anything like that. I think his variants are fine when they come and go. It's just there's just so much happening, and at the end of the day, as much as I like the fact that it's like WandaVision 2 or sequel to WandaVision, it didn't make me feel like I was invested enough, like I didn't care enough. And I think that's part of the problem. The movie is just another major challenge. 45 days till D+. It has stiff competition in 3 weeks. Oh, Top Gun Maverick, 2 weeks. Jurassic World, yeah. Well, no. I mean, they only need a couple weeks, and they'll make some money. I think the idea that these people are going to make $1 billion is insane. $500 million in 2 weeks, I think, is definitely manageable. I don't know if it'll be the opening weekend or not. I just don't know. I don't know how many people want to go, but it is not as bad as I thought it would be. So the normies will enjoy the ride. And there was massive cheering, believe it or not, in that Illuminati scene. I found that so off-putting. Like, you guys really like Captain Carter? You guys are cheering for the Inhumans guy? And of course, John Krasinski, because people don't read the internet. They don't want to know. So yeah, anyway, so it made you, Wanda, not to care. Someone, I'm not quite. I don't know exactly how to take that part. So just clarify your comment or question. Because I think WandaVision sequel, it made me like WandaVision more because she doesn't get off scot-free. But at some point, I'm like, I don't care that she's chasing down her imaginary kids. Like, it's just dumb. Like, just go have some kids. This idea of having this bizarre multiverse kidnapping scheme and then murdering the other Wanda or whatever you have to do didn't quite work. Anyway, Troy asked, so they got Anson Mount to play with Black Bolt. Yeah, they did. Kind of canonizes the Terrible Inhuman series. No, yeah, it did, and it was, they do a flashback scene to what happened to their Strange, and you see him say, "I'm sorry," and blast him, and so at least they set up the power of Black Bolt. But when he faces Wanda, she just like, bloop, and then yeah, it's done. It like they last no time. So I just don't care about Wanda's motivation as a villain. Like, the Thanos Ultron motivations is like this classic, high profile villain story arc of they know better, they want to control everything, whatever. Yeah. She 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 finally sees the error of her ways, and I thought it was interesting. So America Chavez, again, she's trying to figure, she doesn't know how to do her powers. So she doesn't, so when she thinks that when she gets this and that's when these little portal things open up. As the movie goes on, Strange actually tells her what he thinks she can do. Like, if you kind of think about where you want to go, you can do this. And he's an encourager. They kind of bond over this. And I thought that was fine. And it softens the blow of how irritating this character is, because she's not the comic book version that I've been reading. I'm not saying I've read everything, because some of it is rough. So she's starting to get more confident. So she tries. So at the end, when she tries to face off with Wanda and makes a portal, she puts Wanda face to face with the evil version, has to face the version that she'll have to kill in order to get the kids. And the kids see the chaos and the monster, and they call it out. The kids call it out. And I think all of that worked. And I think if anyone liked WandaVision, they're going to love this movie, because it does kind of like finish her story. They kill off another Avenger, though, basically, which I don't know that she's dead. You don't see a body. She's not dead. Yeah. There's this weird, all right, again, down spoiler stuff. Because they like to do things they don't explain, and then you're supposed to just go figure it out using Wikipedia or Comic Marvel, Marvel.com or whatever. The whole third eye Doctor Strange, because he's, this version of Strange has been in the Darkhold so long, he's like corrupting himself, kind of like the evil Doctor Strange in the What If series. But it's the third eye Doctor Strange, but we don't quite totally understand what's going on, or does that help him, or I don't know. So when you get to the mid-credit scene and he's like got agony or whatever, he suddenly has a third eye. And you're like, oh, okay. So it's a Wanda movie, just using Doctor Strange as the vehicle. Joker, it's not as much as I thought it was, though. Wanda is the villain. Doctor Strange's arc is just really, really weak, because it's two parts. He is the protector of America Chavez, because he understands that she's important, and not in a weird cliche wokey way. Like, she's the point of the story. Like, that's what Wanda's chasing. She is a MacGuffin in a lot of ways. And then he is pining for the girlfriend. Like, so the opening, the first scene in our world is really pretty cringe, because he's going to go to Christina's wedding, and they have this brief conversation with the other doctor from the first movie who was also blipped. But he's sad because, he never stood up for himself. He never said, "I love you." He would never become a good person to take her. And now that he's the sorcerer, well, he's not the sorcerer supreme. Now that he's, doing this, he doesn't want to risk her. And it makes him look weak. But as the story goes on, and he does say, "I love you," and all that stuff to the other Christina from the other universe. So he changes. It doesn't make for a great story arc for him in either of those two things. With America Chavez, like, he kind of has this father-daughter thing with her, and he's trying to, become, the person that would be bold enough to tell Christina how he really feels. But Wanda's the villain. Like, I don't think of Infinity War as a Thanos movie, even though it's a Thanos movie. So it's very similar. Like, I don't think of it as being a Wanda movie. He is relevant. He's even though he's toted around with a bunch of women around him, he's not irrelevant. He's very powerful. He's doing a lot of things all the time. It's not as bad as I thought it would be. That's kind of where I'm at on this. All right, then why not use this film as the final 3 episodes of WandaVision? Agatha Harkness' character was useless. I totally don't understand the Agatha thing. Agatha basically just poured gas on Wanda's insanity journey, and I don't think they would have ever want to spend this much money. Well, first off, I don't think they even had this planned. I think that back when WandaVision was being developed, this was probably still a Scott Derrickson horror movie with Nightmare as the villain, and it's evolved over time into the multiverse was being chosen as the main vehicle. The problem is they don't deal with the Kang issue out of Loki or anything like that. So that answers that question. Darkhold introduced, so they're going to admit mistake and bring in Mephisto. Absolutely no Mephisto. No Mephisto. First off, just so you guys know, Mephisto, just stop expecting Mephisto because in China, well, I guess maybe they will because they can't get any of their movies to get in China. So maybe they will just stop trying. Because in Mephisto, it's because of the demonic symbolism and things like that. They won't do those things in China. It's complete nonstop. It's a complete no-brainer, not going to happen. So you can just stop that. They presumably destroy all the Darkholds by the end of the movie. So they kind of introduce it and destroy it, and they do make some other references to other creatures, villains in this universe that could be played out. So she's not a sorcerer, she's a mutant. Oh well, they don't play up the mutant thing at all. They just play up the magic thing, the witch, the Scarlet Witch. So the Scarlet Witch is not treated as a character that's manipulating magic in a positive way. She is just consumed with this fictional desire of being a mom who's lost these 2 kids, and she's dreaming about them, so therefore they're real. The bigger disappointment is that Vision's just forgotten. He's just forgotten. She looks at him as dead, a failed project. She had a failed effort to try to be with him again, and whatever happened in WandaVision, she either doesn't know about White Vision or doesn't care, never addressed. Let's see. Yeah, Joker's just you're talking to each other. Act a devil, but don't show a devil. Yeah. So she, I will say Elizabeth Olsen has some scenes that are pretty good. I think the acting is just sort of okay. I don't think there's anything special. But she's probably the best part of the film. Like her performance is probably the best part, her character, but it's the more dynamic element to the film, right? The villain's more interesting anyway. But Doctor Strange has the 2 sort of storylines, his personal journey and the protective aspect, the father-daughter stuff with America Chavez. America Chavez changes a little bit, so at the end she's learning how to punch her portals, and she's learning that she can be stronger on her own and things like that. She's learning how to be responsible. She's learning that a lot more of this stuff is beyond what I'll be able to control. So again, not the comic book character I've been reading. Wong is really good. He is the Sorcerer Supreme at the beginning, and he's the Sorcerer Supreme at the end with, jokes accordingly. Let's see what else. Christina on our Earth is marrying some black dude. And then on the 838, she's going to go back to her universe, basically. So Joker Voice said, I'll be surprised when this film breaks even. I have no faith in current Marvel. Okay. Don't know what do they have to do to break even? That's probably the question I have to ask. I don't know the figures. We talked briefly about this on and off as you and I have chatted, but I think that there's a good chance it'll make 100 to 150 million, and then globally 300 million. I don't know, 400. I don't know. It's not in China. It's not in places in the Middle East. So 300, 400. I can see this film easily getting into the 600, 700, 800 range if the normies accept it. I know it's silly. I just came out of this movie, just had a sandwich, and I'm talking to you guys now for 30 minutes. So I have no exposure to know what the normies think. So I will be able to tell you more tomorrow. Normies are strong with ignoring reality. They were cheering during the Illuminati scene. Awesome one. They were cheering. They were cheering for Captain Carter. I was appalled. I was shocked. Captain Carter in What If is an absolute freaking joke to me. I couldn't stand Captain Carter. I couldn't. And they're cheering for her. They're cheering over John Krasinski, who gets murdered 5 seconds later. So they had no idea of all the rumors. They had no idea of the spoilers. They just don't. They didn't. So, I mean, this place was going bonkers for the Illuminati stuff. And it was all for naught. None of it mattered. None of it mattered. They could have pinged around to any other thing and had a very similar thing where Wanda comes in and just killed everybody because she's a monster. It's going to make at least 800 million. I would say that we are going to be very tight on that. We'll see. We'll see. I can actually, Joker, I will try to remember to email you tomorrow with my thoughts on that as I go around and kind of get a feel from some of the normies by asking open-ended questions and stuff like that. And some of them probably will catch up on Moon Knight and some of the other stuff because a lot of folks just aren't caught up. We obsess about doing this stuff in real time. Hence the reason I'm talking to you guys, because tomorrow I probably can't stream or anything. So I said, well, I better throw a video up real quick because that's the only time I'm going to have. Because I'm not going to have time to do Moon Knight now. I've been doing this. Listen, I would be a hypocrite if I bashed the film after liking Free Guy because the journey, the chaos, the video game elements, it's not much to it in a lot of ways, but it doesn't mean it's not entertaining-esque. And I have to be honest, guys. I have to be honest with myself that I'm a hypercritic on this stuff because I like the source material. I have a bias that I want it to be good. I want it to be good. I see the potentials that are there. And when it's transformed into something that is, kind of a shell of what it could be, I tend to be too overly critical or judgmental. It's middle of the road. I know some folks are bashing it. I know Jace Fox is notorious. It's the worst ever, but look, it's not. To me, the bottom is still going to be Iron Man 2, Captain Marvel, Incredible Hulk, Eternals. Like this is this is just a little bit above. It's in this next bottom tier. It's not, I don't even know how to rank these kind of movies because it's like a 4 or 5 maybe. It's like a 4 or 5. It's like it's Eternals is nodded off in Eternals, so it's nowhere as bad as Eternals. And I couldn't get through Iron Man 2. I tried to rewatch Iron Man 2, and I'm like, all I want to watch at this point was Iron Man and the Donut and Black Widow. I could care less about Iron Man 2. So it's not that bad. I could see myself sitting through this again, and I probably will at some point when I don't have to, I'm not going to pay. I'm not giving them money. So I don't know how to watch it again for free between now and when it drops somewhere. But the journey part is reasonably entertaining in the sense that stuff's happening. But I'm not going to pretend that it's good either. I really didn't like the stuff at the end with the whole Doctor Strange connecting to the zombie Doctor Strange and that, because the one Doctor Strange dies in the opening sequence. He dies. So that's the zombie. There's no Marvel zombies. Just forget all that rumor. But there's all these, like, the spirits are going to get me. Christina, you'll have to look after me. I really didn't like any of that stuff. I enjoyed the Sam Raimi Evil Dead-esque of it all, but it didn't work. This is where the film was at odds with itself. It couldn't find its voice. It's like the video game stuff with the Sam Raimi stuff just doesn't work. So, Joker, so I want Marvel to be good. It just isn't at the moment, and it's not a bad thing to call out it as such. Yeah, and again, what I'm trying to say is, I'm not trying to say this is good. I'm trying to say it's just in this mediocre, kind of stuff. But it's fun enough for normies. It's fun. It's not the worst thing in the world to sit through compared to some of the other mess. I haven't watched Black Widow again. I tried to watch it again. I ended up watching EFAP, and it was Mahler's version because it was more entertaining than the actual movie. I will never watch Eternals again. It was a complete waste of my time the first time. I can't see myself making it through Shang-Chi because the film is so riddled with problems. This film, instead of being riddled with problems, it's more like I just don't care-isms. Like I don't care enough. I get it and I see it, and I'm sort of relieved they did this to Wanda so that she actually become the monster, and now she's a monster, and that's her story. Like, okay, that's actually a positive for me. Doctor Strange and America Chavez are a little bit different. He's slightly different, whatever the third eye freaking thing is. It's sort of like unexplained, and you're supposed to just know the comic books, or you're supposed to have more into it, and that's all it is. It's just a setup for. And then with America Chavez, it's a little bit tolerable. So I will wait 45 days till I see it. I assume that's about pretty much a drop date for some sort of streaming service. unless I can surf the high seas at work. Yeah. Yeah. So there it is. Middle of the road, just sort of yeah, good chance. Uh, good chance it'll make some money. It's not as terrible as I thought it would be. Not as cringy or wokey as I thought it would be. I'm not trying to say it's good. I'm trying to be as honest and transparent. Um, I said earlier today on a show, talked about how I liked Tomorrow War because it wasn't woke, but it was fun. This is fun, and it has some woke pieces. It is also like an open wound for most of us. So you see things that I don't think were as intentional, um, as maybe how we take them, and that's kind of where this film is. So there you go. It's my thoughts. Maybe you see it. You can leave your comments. I don't know. Troy asks, so I have to wonder if they embrace the Wanda as a villain thing, do you think the Wokastanis will be reeing in the coming days on social media? No, I think they're going to be happy. I think they're going to be happy because they don't treat motherhood as sort of a responsible duty and honorable role. And her role or how she takes it is very emotional and selfish to the point of almost, she's basically evil, right? So Joker says, all right, my friend, I'm going to take a power nap before work tonight. Look forward to hearing from you. Likewise, bro. Take care. So Troy, I don't know if they're gonna because she's kicking butt, she's killing men, she's killing women, she's just crazed into her mission. So it is strong woman in a way. I mean, I could hear Az, getting obsessed from it about that way, but I think it is, she's just nuts. She's freaking out of her mind with her crazy idea. So, yeah, I don't know. It's just so strange to me. I'll try to remember, Troy, and I can give you that email. That's basically what Joker's implying. So I can do that for you. I'll try to remember. I will try to remember. I have a crazy work day tomorrow because it's a Friday. So anyway, so that's it. I have to also take a nap so I can go to work tomorrow. There's my Doctor Strange thoughts. You can always leave more comments. I try to respond to all my comments, or at least acknowledge them so I read them. I didn't hate it as much as I thought I would. It's not a good film. It's sort of a mediocre to low on the totem pole of things. You know what I mean? It's kind of in that, not the very, very worst of the MCU. It doesn't. I don't think it makes it more MCU. I think it just is sort of like a mainstay. I will say, if anything, I'm happy that Wanda is a villain and stayed a villain, died a villain. Like she sees the error of her ways, and then she just basically, that's it. Self takes care of it herself in a way. But there's no body, so who knows? She could come back. So anyway, that's it. This stuff. Thanks for hanging out with me tonight. A couple of you hopping in and saying hi. I appreciate that. And listen, I appreciate all the support. Love you guys for it, because it's really it's been amazing. I can't believe how things have gone. And talk to you guys soon. Take care. Have a good night.